We also promised Russia that NATO would not move an inch further east, and we all saw how that worked out. Okay, let's talk about this. In the comment section of that video, I got some variation of this comment over and over again. But is it true? As it turns out, no, that is not true at all. But how did we get here? Why do so many people think that it is true? Okay, the not 1 inch eastward comment comes from negotiations with Germany when the Berlin Wall fell. Some Western leaders, including U.S. Secretary of State James Baker, suggested in early discussions that NATO might not expand 1 inch eastward, but this referred specifically to the NATO military presence in East Germany. This had absolutely nothing to do with a broader ban on NATO expansion. Russia's leader at the time, Gorbachev, even admitted in later interviews that it was not brought up at all about the NATO expansion to other countries. And the thing about NATO is that people don't understand is they don't try to recruit other countries to join NATO. The countries that have joined NATO were largely because they feared Russia. Look at it this way. Say you were in a bad relationship and you got out of it, but your ex kept hanging around and said, I don't want to see you with anybody else. If I do, there's going to be problems. Of course, you're going to go try and find protection somewhere, especially when your ex is right next door and always watching you and threatening you. But then you said, imagine how the United States would act if, let's say, Russia wanted to put missiles in Cuba. How do you think the United States would act? Oh, wait, ever hear of the Cuban Missile Crisis? And that, my dude, is what we call a false equivalency. You see, one of these things is an offensive move, while the other one is a defensive move. Russia secretly put those missiles in Cuba. They weren't supposed to have them there. But with NATO, each country joins voluntarily. With Russia, you have one country calling all the shots. With NATO, everybody has an equal voice. The Cuban Missile Crisis was like somebody sneaking a cannon into your yard and pointing it at your house. NATO is more like neighborhood watch. All the people on the street get together and they decide how they're going to watch over each other's houses and everything and install security devices. Now, are they doing it all because they don't trust that one neighbor at the end of the street? Absolutely, but there's nothing wrong with that. Especially since that guy down the street is an asshole who keeps picking on people. So if you ever hear anybody say that the United States or NATO promised that they would never move 1 inch towards Russia, tell them that they are wrong and tell them why. What they were talking about was the reunification of Germany. It had absolutely nothing to do with NATO and Russia. It's important that we know this stuff so that we can battle misinformation and disinformation when we see it. Because there's a lot of people out there who are pushing misinformation and don't even realize it because it's something that they've always heard. This is exactly how the Republican Party is working right now. If I keep repeating a lie over and over and over again, eventually people are going to be like, I heard this a lot of times, so it must be true. When they make that claim, say, okay, show me the treaty, because they're not going to be able to find one anywhere. Russia does not get to dictate what a whole country's people decide to do with their own country. The United States and NATO didn't break a promise because there was never a promise made to begin with.